Welcome to the OtherWorldsGG Community Cast. This is episode number 21, and I am joined today by Mellified and Alien Pickle. Jim, how you doing? What? Say that again? Oh yeah, we're old enough to drink. That's right, man.
21 episodes.
Well,
I remember what we talked about though.
Yeah, I mean, what have we talked about? It's only been a few months since we've started this this endeavor. I'm pretty proud of where we're at. I mean, we're still in the early days. We haven't really been doing a lot of advertising, and we haven't really been like putting ourselves out there too much. I mean, you've been podcasting for a long time. I know you did the you've done the space podcast for a while. Like what was it like for you guys? And like, how long did it take you all to pick up like some kind of an audience? Was it a while, or?
I honestly paid no attention to audience numbers because I just didn't want to drive myself that crazy. We were just doing it for the fun of doing it. And if there was like 10 people that were listening to it, it was worth doing. Right. So I know the Discord over there's got like 2,000 people in it. So at some point, 2,000 people have heard the thing.
Or at least heard the name of, or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we still do some interactions over there from time to time too. So, I mean, we've got our foot in the door over there as well. But it's interesting kind of being in the early days of a new project. I have never started my own podcast before until I started this one with Mellified and you.
Yeah. So question on that, right? The numbers,
mm-hmm.
right? As far as metrics, because we upload the episode to whatever podcatcher thing that you're using,
right? Mm-hmm.
That's how involved I am in the production, folks. I don't even know as opposed to the other one, right? You know, where it's like It started out, I was the producer, and I had to hand that off. But yeah, so as far as metrics go, now that we get to see numbers, right? Do you see how many downloads there were for the show on that platform? How many actually watched it on YouTube? Because we put
I see the numbers on YouTube. So the thing with the YouTube stuff is I'm very passive on the YouTube thing right now. So like it goes up on YouTube, but I don't do like any tagging, I don't do any hashtags, like I don't do any of that stuff right now. Now I might go back and retroactively add some of that stuff in to maybe get some like notices and stuff like that.
But it's very interesting because you don't. So that means it has to be like some kind of organic discovery where maybe people discover the show, then look for the YouTube. So they're not on YouTube and discover it there. So you have to come in looking for it or followed a link to it from something. So I was wondering if there's any numbers at all on the YouTube.
There are, but they're very, very, very low right now. Our YouTube is kind of like it's a place to put it, you know. Like, for example, if people don't want Spotify or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, you have a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Well, is it on YouTube?" I can be like, "Oh, yeah, here's the link," you know. But we do have our link tree as an example that points to like where everything is. So, like, we have a Steam group. We do some Steam curation over there, which I still actually need to get you on there. So if you ever want to like write up some reviews for games for the Steam group, you can.
Fans.
You link to your OnlyFans. Your only cans. You like collecting cans.
Right, only cans. That's a game, actually.
Right. No. Yeah. And then, you know, so
game loosely, by the way.
Yeah, that's right, loosely. But that's kind of where the state is on YouTube. I do see our numbers are rather large on Podbean. So Podbean's our hosting for the podcast. And then from there, it blasts out the RSS feed to iTunes, Apple. So that's the same thing. It blasts out to iTunes, Google, Spotify. The interesting thing is we've got zero metrics for Google, so no one's finding us over on Google and listening to us. People are listening to us on Spotify, but the numbers are pretty low still over there. And we've got
Podbean is like a central clearinghouse for numbers. It'll tell you which service actually pulled.
Well, sort of, because I've told it to link to those services to get pulled. So essentially,
but if iTunes pulls for a listener, it's going to pull it from Podbean. So Podbean can say, I delivered one episode to iTunes. I delivered 2 episodes to.
Well, no, I think what it does is it delivers an episode, and then once it's been delivered, then people can get it from that resource. So like I don't think
it's not like a central place that I can look at the numbers of all platforms that somebody could have listened to it on.
Right. I don't think it's doing that, unfortunately, no.
Yeah. My old show, it used to be, I did it, this was in the days of like, I am putting the show in my own disc up on Amazon, right? And then I have an RSS feed that I hand the RSS feed to iTunes, and then I can look at hits of my RSS feed and what URL they came from. And then I could tell what agent was actually directing people to the file. So right. I figured Podbean, if it was acting like that and it was just giving you an RSS, they might, but I guess not. Mechanics.
No, but I do see we do get way more downloads from Podbean. Weirdly enough, I do see a lot of downloads through that.
Like I've never met a person in my life that goes to Podbean to listen to podcasts.
Well, it's interesting. So podcast communities are quite interesting. So I know of one called what is it? Maximum Fun. And Maximum Fun even has like their own like conventions every year. So you can actually go to like the Maximum Fun convention and like go meet your favorite like podcaster. And so like they have their own sub community essentially of like all these different podcasting like people. And so like usually the advertisements between episodes of a show are like for other shows on that platform. And I think Podbean does a lot of stuff similar. So I've been getting emails recently about like, we're interested in like monetizing with you. And I was like, oh, all right. So I might like try and get in on some of the monetization through Podbean just to help pay for itself, essentially. The thing about
terrified of monetization and success.
Right. Well, The thing is, though, it's not that I want to do it to become successful. I want to do it so that it just pays for itself.
That's not only that, if it's cross promotional with other podcasts, that's great, right? Like we might have unique listeners that some other show doesn't, yet the interest would be the same, right? So you cross pollinate, right?
Sure,
so,
absolutely.
And I feel like in the social space that we're in, the business is decidedly antisocial about the way that people act, right? It's just like, this is my Twitch channel. I'm not going to co-stream with anybody, like I'm right. And there's some reasons for doing it. Like you don't want to get associated and then find out the person you got associated with is a true piece of crap. So then your karma pays.
Well, and part of it also boils down to like control. Some people just have control issues where they're just not ready to relinquish that to somebody else to be a part of.
Yeah.
Because they also know it's just like, well, this is my thing. I started this, and I just want to try and maintain as much control as I can. But like you can't always assume that it's just going to be that simple. One of the things that I love about what we're doing here with OtherWorldsGG is that like Mellify and I both have full keys to everything. So we have shared resources where we keep things encrypted, but it's just like we have access to every single facet of what's going on with OtherWorldsGG. Now, I know like we're talking, I'm talking about him. For clarity, Jim early on, for those that are listening, he wants to be as involved as like this. It was one of those things where he wants to be on the show and hang out and whatever. But as far as
I want low effort fame. That's
right. Yeah. So for anyone who's wondering why he's asking me some of these questions, it's mainly because he's here to have fun and hang out with us, and we like having him on the show.
Well, also in the interests of like show transparency, I'm just curious as an audience member of other shows, like how are your stats, right? Like people never talk about it because, like, I don't know, it's none of the audience's business or whatever, but it's also a thing of like, hey, if you like the show, you want it to succeed, and we're talking about our numbers here, and you could help us promote the thing, and because now you know what the numbers are like, so like you'll see effect from being out there whoring our show.
Yeah, sure. 100%.
Yeah. I just believe in, like, involve the audience in your metrics a little bit, because I'm as an audience member curious about it, but maybe I am because I'm a podcaster and the average Joe don't care. But
right.
whatever.
I was doing a
Hey,
podcast
Mollified.
previously. Hi. I was doing a podcast previously for a gaming community. I'm still on their Discord. I need to go look and see how big it was because I actually don't remember. There were 100 people online and 400 people offline in that Discord. And we did a podcast for a year and pretty much got to 100 downloads per episode. We did zero advertising, zero, effort beyond the community.
Oh, really? Because the space game thing, maybe because it was already an established website that had an audience, and then whenever people are already there, and then you put up on the website, oh, by the way, podcast, then you grow audience fast or something. Because we were up to like thousands of listens, views, impressions. I don't know what to even call it. I'm so pro. But yeah, we got numbers fast. But then I've also done things where I never got numbers at all. So, and you don't hear about those because I don't do them because they never got numbers.
Yeah, I think the difference there is a community based around gaming with each other versus a topical community like, hey, space games or whatever. A little different, different tone, little different audience.
Well, and it's also there's the other thing that puts me in mind of, and they don't have one, right? But let's say Fever Clan that I game with, or like say some WoW guild, right? And it's a WoW guild that's got like a couple thousand members in it, right? Huge. Then do they have like an in-guild podcast that's just for them or whatever? And hey, if other people find this interesting, then they can come too, because it's kind of general, whatever, but it's people in our guild talking about our guild and what we're doing. But that's a thing that Scott Johnson, right, with the whole the Instance podcast, he I think still is a member of Aliacta Est or whatever, that guild. But it started out as just the guild podcast for the guild, but now it's become like the World of Warcraft podcast. So
yeah, I can totally believe that.
So it's kind of like it started out as a specific audience, but then became general audience because popularity.
Well, and I think, much like streaming, right? When we talk about someone wanting to become a streamer, what that means is putting a lot of time in, maintaining a schedule, and doing a stream the same time every week, the same time every day, to build your audience. Because if you're not online, you're not able to connect with people when you're starting out. And so that's kind of what you have to do with a podcast. It's kind of what you have to do with streaming. It's kind of what you have to do with all these things, is just keep showing up, and eventually you'll find your people. But if you stop, then people assume it's dead and
right.
move
well,
on.
Also, like, if I go and I discover a podcast and they're on like episode 5, that's a lot different than I go to and discover and they're on like episode 200. They've been at this for a while. I know that this is going to continue for a while, right? So now I'm more apt to click on it because it's got higher episode numbers. Very much like I go to a Twitch stream, there's 1,000 people watching somebody, versus I go to a Twitch stream and there's 2. Right. So I'm more apt to think that the one that's already got the population is probably going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So you need money to make money. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and I think there's certainly a level of professionalism Like one of the things I know, people who stream from the consoles, right? You have built-in streaming on Xbox and PlayStation 4 and 5 and Xbox One and Series. That built-in streaming doesn't give you overlays. It doesn't give you chat reactions and things like that. Somebody subscribes, you're like, yeah, thanks. If you don't, but if you don't have a phone open next to you, you don't even know that happened on console, because it's just more about getting the video out there, not the extra stuff. But people expect the extra stuff.
Yeah. So a question about that, because you might know. So if I hit that social button on like PlayStation or the Xbox, right, and I'm then streaming to PlayStation or Xbox's streaming website where I would have to go to watch these people, right? So it's not like, oh, I hit the social button and it fires up my Twitch stream and I'm actually going to that. But is there an integration option where I could, or am I stuck like having to pass it through an Elgato into my PC to then send it up for OBS to do it traditional?
Currently, those are your two options. Either you do it through the app or, on the console and you get none of the bells and whistles, or you do it on the PC and you get, whatever you're willing to sort of build out.
Okay, so that the app on the console, is that like the built-in like Microsoft app, or are you saying I can download a Twitch app to the console that then takes over that button?
On it yes, but it's different. It depends which console. PS4, if you hit the share button, Twitch is one of the options built into the system.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I assumed that the only thing on PS4 would be Sony's own thing, because
Sony doesn't have their own thing. That's why Twitch is the thing.
Well, how nice of them to put a button there for you.
I know. Well, back in the day, it was Ustream, Twitch, and something else. I think now they've got Twitch, maybe YouTube and Facebook, or maybe just YouTube. I don't know. I don't use the PS4 that much anymore. I haven't looked at it on PS5, honestly. I know on Xbox, because Xbox had Mixer, we got kind of demoted at Twitch to the sidelines. Right. And there were like APIs that only Mixer had access to that we didn't. Since they've shut down Mixer, obviously things have changed a little bit. The current Xbox app is both a viewing app and a broadcasting app, and you basically just launch it, go into the broadcasting tab in the app and say, I want to stream. Right. And it gives you a little overlay in the corner that shows how long you've been streaming and how many people are watching, but it doesn't have chat integration. It doesn't have anything. It's very bare bones.
Yeah, which is kind of disappointing, because I would think like just make the damn Twitch app as it exists on PC on your platform, and then we're the same everywhere. But really, if I'm on my Xbox, I want to play a game. I don't want to watch other people play games.
Well, but like I could be
or something for that.
I could be on my phone and watching you stream from your Xbox is the
right.
Is the intent. But unfortunately, I think the consoles, it's there. I know a guy who I used to game with quite a bit. When we would do when we get together and play like Halo, he would stream it to Twitch, not because he expected anybody to watch it, but so he could go back and clip out the funny parts later from the VOD.
Right.
And then pass those clips around to the group of us to, sort of giggle at each other being silly.
Yeah. Well, and that's an advantage. And Discord does it even better, right? Because since we're in voice chat and Discord, I can just start broadcasting my game. And if we're playing a 4-player game, all 4 people can broadcast their game. And then I can have the Twitch window or Discord window open, and it will show a 2x2 grid of everybody's game, so that when we're playing in a multiplayer game, I don't have to ask, where are you? What are you doing? I just look over there and I see your stream. So that's great advantage in multiplayer, like especially like Red Dead Online, GTA, stuff like that. It's like you never wonder what the other people are doing because it's there on your other screen.
Right.
Which you could do with a console and your phone, I guess, but less conveniently. But I'm just saying that's a victory of the Discord platform that I'm gaming with streaming. That's cool. Wish that GG or Gilded rather had figured that out.
Yeah, and that's yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say the thing with Gilded that's interesting, and as we tried starting, that was the mistake that I think that we made, was not only are we trying to start a new thing, but we're trying to get like our new thing to be adopted by people. With Gilded, Gilded has a lot of really great things going on, but I think at the end of the day, because they're still working on building so many things, it's not there. There is not there yet for what we want.
Well, let me draw a weird parallel maybe. The problem games had about 3 years after WoW launched is they weren't competing against WoW as it was at launch. They were competing with WoW plus 3 years of content. So when a new game came out, they can't spend, WoW took 3 years to develop. They can't spend 6 years developing the game to get all the content. So people would go try the new thing, play through all of the content in a few months, and then come back to WoW. And we saw this over and over and over again when I was at Blizzard, where every next game, every next MMO was going to be a WoW killer. And none of them were, because everybody went back to WoW.
They were the WoW killer for a month, and then...
Yes. Yep. So it's kind of the same thing with Discord and Gilded, right? Gilded is competing not against Discord as it was 5 years ago, but Discord as it is today, with all of the tech, all of the bells and whistles, all of the extra features, and Gilded's trying to catch up while also trying to build their audience and get adoption, which is hard when Discord is kind of good enough. I mean, I'm in a server on Discord. I hit the 100 server limit the other day on Discord, just to give you an idea. I'm of how many Discords I'm in, but I lurk in many of them.
I think we need to have a conversation, Mollified.
Yeah, there needs to be an intervention. How much RAM does your Discord eat? Is it more channels you're in, the more... Does it consume more resources, more network bandwidth, or does it not bother to look in the channel until you actually go in the channel and then it...
I don't think it definitely does not preload servers.
Okay, so it's not like IRC where it's continuously pulling every server that I'm in for... Yeah, okay.
There are 6 processes running for Discord with it's in kilobytes. Not that much RAM. 1 million kilobytes is what, a gigabyte?
Something like that, yeah.
So I mean I have 32 gigs of RAM on my gaming machine, and I like to joke that I can use a machine on 16 gigs, but if I'm going to game on it, I need 16 gigs for all of the launchers.
Yeah,
it's like,
just 16
that's
gigs.
like haha, but not really, because it's kind of real. But
it is. Well, I was running out of RAM with only 16 gigs if I tried to run Discord and all my normal stuff and all my game launchers. So.
Yeah,
game
launchers. I prefer game launchers only exist when I'm actually launching a game or updating a game, and otherwise don't lay around in my system tray. Don't stay resident. Get the hell out.
Well,
and
what I would
set to do that, but sometimes they still want to persist.
What I would like to do though is I'd like to be able to launch a game that just does like a check. Like is the Steam account for this Steam game like installed on here? Yes, okay. We don't have to launch the whole launcher just to launch this game, because like if you have a shortcut for a game you have on Steam, like on your desktop, but Steam's not running, you launch that game, it's going to launch Steam first, and then it's going to launch the game, and you're just like, Jesus, like, I have to launch all these processes just to run the game.
Okay, so we have not only GOG Galaxy as a launcher of launchers, but now we also have Steam and the Xbox app as launcher of launchers.
You ready for this?
Because you have to launch EA to play their game, or you launch Ubisoft's thing. Okay,
you ready for this?
Lay it on me.
So I got GOG Galaxy, Epic Launcher, Steam, Uplay, EA's Origin, EA's new launcher, their beta launcher, Battle.net, itch.io, Bethesda, Rockstar has their own launcher, and then just to like name a few other like weird ones, I've got BlueStacks on here, right? And then which is to emulate and run Android stuff, right? And that doesn't even include all of like the one-off games that have their own independent little launchers for like their own little games, like EVE Online, or any like MMO that I've got installed, like Star Citizen, Dual Universe,
Yeah, because all MMOs have their own updater. Because,
Yep.
Yeah.
So. And it's I have one for World of Tanks, the wargaming.net updater, which is really annoying because the other games that they make are on Steam, but World of Tanks is not. So World of Tanks, you have to have their. Is it now? Did they actually finally move it? Okay, well maybe I can kill off that launcher then. But
no, it just
I also
launches the launcher.
Yeah.
I have the ESO launcher running. I have yeah. I mean it's just silly, and I have the Arc is the other one I was going to say.
Oh no, Mellified.
For Star Trek Online.
Oh yeah, the Arc launcher.
It drives me absolutely crazy. It drives me absolutely crazy when I go to play a game and it tells me it has a 30 gig update and I have to wait for that. So the point of having all these launchers running is to update them in the background. However, everybody after COVID was like trying to be good corporate citizens and now doesn't actually do the friggin' updates in the background anymore because they don't want you sucking down all the bandwidth that somebody needs to do their job, I guess.
What was it? Which game recently switched over to getting updated fully through Steam? Was it MechWarrior Online that'll just update through Steam now instead of like through their own little launcher?
I can't know.
I can't remember.
I believe it is one of them. Yeah.
Because there were some games where I think that, and I think the Old Republic now will actually get its updates through Steam if you haven't launched the launcher in a while. I could be wrong on that though. But I have noticed
Steam
that some of these
doesn't want to update half the time anyway, right? Like I go in there, and if I go into the downloads tab, I'll have stuff queued 3 weeks from now to update.
Yeah. They should make a launcher that's called Dr. Manhattan, and it's like who launches the launcher.
Well, in some cases,
I have Play Night.
I was going to say there's Play Night, and even God Galaxy can do it, but the weird thing, all right, so this is harking back to that mysterious Lost episode, right? So, like, I actually have Play Night collect all of my games, and until I lost my hard drive, it was also pulling in all of my emulators and my ROMs and stuff like that. And then I had a plugin that sent all of the stuff that was non-Steam into Steam as a shortcut, so I could use Steam to launch everything, whether it be an emulator, an Epic game, or whatever it is that I had installed. Playknight would take all of these things and then inject them into Steam for me, and so that way I could use Steam. I could use the Steam Link as another thing, so like I could stream it to my phone, or I could stream it to the Steam Link that I have up to the TV, or I could use the Steam Link app on my Nvidia Shield and stream it up to the TV. Same kind of thing. So it made that a lot easier. So like, but it's that launcher for the launchers to launch the launchers. God, say that 12 times fast.
Yeah, I heard you like launchers.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, for a while there, it was getting like compoundedly worse because, like you said, there's also the Xbox stuff if you have Game Pass, if you want to do the Windows things. But I mean, for a little while there, Discord was doing its own games. Twitch had it as an installer for games. Like, ooh, Lord, yikes.
And they're not good. Like a lot of these launchers are kind of crap. It's really frustrating.
Don't call out EA specifically like that.
Yeah.
Well, and EA struggled, I think, to do a decent job, and it's just sort of baffling. Like, I don't know. I just don't understand why it's so hard.
It comes down to the whole thing, and we're back to the Epic lawsuit. This is all about who gets the percentage of my microtransactions. That's the only reason everybody needs their own frickin' launcher, is because we want to keep this percentage in our pocket instead of Gabe's pocket.
Well,
Yeah.
you got companies like Paradox that actually did something useful with their launcher, where we talked about this when we were talking about Stellaris. You could go back to any major version of the game through the Paradox launcher, but not.
Yeah, and
through
they've also
Steam.
put like a mod browser kind of thing in, like
Mhm.
for the Total War stuff. Like
Yes.
it will enumerate your mods and stuff, which also Stellaris kind of does, although it doesn't let you look for the mods in there. Hey, let's talk about a game that's hot on everybody's list, Farm Simulator. Farm Simulator has its
Why-
own built-in
Why is that
mod
on everybody's
launcher.
list? When did that become everybody's list?
That's what I mean.
Oh.
That was the point.
Gotcha.
There's an
Gotcha.
esports league for Farm Simulator.
There
so
is.
Just keep
Oh
that in
my
mind
God,
when you
are
start
you
making
serious?
fun. Oh yeah, it's big money too. So just keep that in mind when you start making fun of Farm Simulator. It is more popular than your favorite game that doesn't have
So
esports.
get a load of this. Get a load of this. Get a load of this. I moved back to a very small town in Ohio. Now, when you talk about population densities, certain population levels qualify you to be known as either like a town. There's literally a definition by population. This is considered a town of, a city of, a metropolitan, a metroplex. In Ohio, there's a ass ton of villages because the populations are that small. It's like sub 1,500 people or something like that, or even like 1,000 people. It's low.
Shout out to Robertsville.
Yeah. So the small little town that I live in has a single school that is K through 12, right? I think like one of the graduating classes back in the day was like 55 people of the senior year or whatever it was, right?
Actually, one room schoolhouse.
You know, so
Yeah.
so the point I'm trying to get to is that in this day and age, they even have an esports team now. I was shocked.
That's pretty dope. I want to be on like the Amish esports league.
I mean, we're in an area where kids are driving their tractors to prom. Like, they got an esports team. I was just like, like one of these
And those are
things
the
is not like the other.
Those are the kids that are super pro at Farm Simulator esports.
That's where I was getting at. I was like, are they the ones that are doing this?
Driver.
I mean, if you're doing it, if you're doing it as like part of your chores at home, I don't know if you want to play the game. Like,
well, it's like Joan, right? She's sitting over there playing Farm Simulator like a fiend, right? Because
she's been playing a lot of it lately. I've noticed.
She's been playing a shitload of Farm Simulator because she's into like the actual management aspect of it, where you have to actually like do the right things or you go broke. Yeah. So but I'm telling her, I'm like, you're sure driving a tractor a lot, and yet I have that cool John Deere out in the shed, and you could get on that because the grass is looking a bit shaggy, and then I get the stare.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. I need to tell you this story because you will laugh so hard, Jim. When I bought my first house in Texas, it was 2 acres of former cornfield. So it was just flat and empty. They had ripped out all the trees. They'd ripped out everything. It was just grass. And the first thing I did, I literally went from signing the papers to buy the house to the tractor supply store to order the riding mower.
Yep.
And
I got a push mow situation there.
Oh, hell no. So I got this beautiful Husqvarna who, if you're not familiar, Husqvarna makes a lot of farm or like lawn equipment, a lot of tools. They were a 16th century Swedish gun maker originally, so I like the idea of buying my farm equipment from an arms dealer. But
Texas much?
Yeah, well, I know. It's in the blood. What can I say? So I get this Husqvarna, and it has a cup holder in it. So I get my Camo America F Yeah beer koozie. I put a beer in it. I put that in the cup holder. I've got a sunshade on it. And I'm just tooling around. Now, mind you, this thing, because I got the high-end one, does about 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, I just imagine you out there with like an umbrella and a fizzy drink, wearing driving your tractor around wearing your tactical flip flops. And
Yep.
Plap, plap,
Yeah.
plap, plap, plap,
That is
plap.
pretty much the picture. Yep. So,
Well, hold on a second. I think what you really need to do, Mellified, is you need to get yourself a Ron beer. And I posted a link in our Discord under that, what you just did. You guys go to YouTube and search for Ron beer.
well, join the Discord and see it there. But
Ginger Billy has this great video of him and his Ron beer. It is precisely what I think of when I think of Mellified mowing his lawn.
well, so let me get to the best part of
Okay.
the story. I found that I really enjoyed mowing the lawn because I'd put my noise canceling headphones on, right? I cranked the music up on my phone and I'm just driving around and like I can see where the grass is long because I don't do it that often because I'm a lazy fucker. I'd rather play video games. And I'm just cruising along mowing the lawn. And my wife is like, wow, you kind of like are seeming to enjoy it. And I explained, like, this is quiet time. I get to listen to music, listen to podcasts, just have fun. And I can get this thing going fast enough. I can get it up on two wheels in the corners. I can, it's fun to drive. So she gets out there and tries it. And next thing I know, I can't get a moment's on the mower because she's gone and mowed the lawn because she finds that she really liked it. So it's funny that you say your wife won't. I can't get my wife to not mow the lawn, so she'd let me do it. Now she'll let me use the push mower or the line trimmer because nobody wants to do that shit. But actually use the riding mower, forget it.
So you should Tom Sawyer this into a profit venture where it's like you charge the neighborhood kids like to do this tractor is so cool. Like $5 an hour, you can drive this tractor around my yard, but you have to mow the grass while you do it.
Oh, that's spectacular.
Pay me to mow my grass. That's the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be
Dude,
be awesome.
That John Beer pickup truck mower is beyond epic. That needs to go straight in the show notes. Now, the thing that I find about this that's very interesting is it is a very tiny pickup truck, and it's got a very short bed on it, kind of thing. But you've heard me talk so many times about, like, I drive that little Chevy Spark roller skate, and if I could just have a little mini pickup bed instead of a back seat, that would be perfect for me because it's like, hey, I got to go get like a sheet of plywood.
You need to watch this video because he talks about it just like, if I'm doing a regular 0-point turn, I can't drink a beer with that. And a Ron beer, I can drink a beer and mow. he's like, if it gets a little warm, I can crank on the AC. If your buddy comes over and you need to mow the lawn, there's a seat right here. He can mow the lawn with you. Just like,
and this guy looks like a hillbilly Viking too. And that's
he does, yeah.
Because it's like, okay, so the mental image is, remember Techno Viking, that guy, but bluegrass version.
Yes, very much. Yes, there you go. That's a good way of looking at it. This video cracked me up. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, I live amongst these people now. Like this, I'm one of them.
It's freaking Banjo Viking.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll point out two things. One, no state has impaired driving laws like driving under the influence if you're on private property because it's not a public road. So you can drive your tractor drunk. Two, this is very much like the meme I posted to you guys the other day about no state has laws that prevent dogs from concealed carry.
Yeah.
I remember that. That was funny. Yes.
Yeah, but
it's like you got to find these loopholes. You got to find your fun where you can, because
so back in my hometown, we had some people, maybe related to my wife, that had lost their driver's license for DUI and then drove their tractor like to the store and stuff, right? But he got a ticket for DUI on his tractor, so I can provide actual legal proof that you're incorrect, that at least in this particular county in Ohio, you could get a DUI for roller skates, man. If you're drunk and it's got wheels, you're done.
On public roads.
Yes, on public roads.
That would make sense. But the difference, I was pointing out that if you're on private property,
Oh yeah,
there's
private
no
property, whatever. You can drink and
Yeah.
drive on private property.
Well, that's what I'm
right?
saying. You drive the lawn tractor drunk, even if it's an old pickup truck.
Just don't take it down to the post office.
Exactly.
Yeah, as soon as you touch the sidewalk, you're fair game.
Yeah. The guys, there was a guy who took an old Lazy Boy and added like a little lawnmower motor to it, and
I
would
remember
drive it
that.
around like a wheelchair. And he got a DUI coming out of the bar. I remember one time with it.
Oh my god! Did you ever see the bar stool that was a motorized bar
Mhm.
stool? Yeah, that's just what it is.
Same concept, absolutely.
Thank you, internet, for letting me see that, because I would have never. If it wasn't
Yeah.
for the internet, like
Yeah.
these things would be rare gold. But
Yes.
since it's the internet, it's just like so common, and I feel that's
Yeah.
probably what has destroyed humanity and Western civilization: is easy access to absurdity.
Well, I mean, this gets a little. I'm going to take this a little deeper, maybe, but anything that you see looms much larger in your mind. So human beings are not good with statistics. So like anecdote gets weighed so much more highly than actual statistics. Like let me give you an example: hardware failure rates. Right? You get the new game controller or the new phone or the new whatever, and yours breaks, and you're gonna bitch and tell 50 people because you're upset. Right?
Yeah.
And so that anecdote looms large in people's mind, and you get these swarms of people that they reinforce each other, they signal boost each other, because they're like, look, Jim had the same problem with his brand new Who's What's It that I did.
Right.
And it's not just me, and it's a problem, and this company should be ashamed, and you get all this. And it turns out the failure rate's the same 3% that we see for any other piece of electronics, but it just so happened that group of people found each other over the internet and signal boosted it to the point where it entered sort of the collective consciousness.
Unless it's made by Apple, and in which case it actually is a real defect that they deny for 4 years. But yeah, no, maybe that's the same deal, honestly. But it seems like people have to like force Apple into an admission that there is a small percentage of broken things, rather than Apple just actually fixing it and accepting that, yeah, this shit's broke.
I think we hear about it with Apple more because they have such a strong reputation. It's like Greenpeace goes after Apple, not because Apple is a bad company when it comes to environmental issues. In fact, Apple does more than almost any company to.
No, but you go where it'll get the most attention.
You go where you're going to get the headlines. Exactly.
Right.
They want attention, so they go after Apple. Nobody gives a shit. Everybody expects Dell's a piece of shit or HP's a piece of shit. And if they were, building their computers with child labor, I'm not sure anybody would blink or be surprised. So
so Microsoft, though, with the Red Ring and the 360, because that started out like, well, this is just a very small percentage of whatever. And then there isn't a person that I know that had an early 360 that didn't get a Red Ring. So that was real. And then the next time that Microsoft brings out a console, right, they didn't have a Red Ring problem, but the amplification of that like 100% of people that had a defective console was think. Like, oh my god, here we go again, because the last one was real. So, so now it's bigger to me.
Yep. And the funny thing about that is the Microsoft actually did so much more engineering to ensure they never had that problem again. Their consoles were some of the most, well cooled. Comparatively.
Have you seen an Xbox Series X opened up? It is a heatsink with a console attached.
Yes.
Great.
It's pretty much.
It is a chimney, right? All the heat is forced up and out, and it is very well designed for what they're trying to do. It's pretty amazing, really. But anyway, I find this stuff fascinating. Like psychology, the way our brains work, especially as we start interconnecting everybody over the internet. One of the things that like I started my career in games doing and I loved working on BattleNet because it brought gamers together so we could play together, so we could have fun together. And gaming, if you remember, back in the 80s and up to the mid 90s, was that thing you did at home by yourself in your mom's basement, right?
Right.
That was the public perception of gaming, and that has changed.
Now I'm just in my own basement.
Well, you graduated to your own basement. No,
sure.
I mean, but it's the perception that you did it alone, that it was something you did in isolation or with like your one buddy who came over, which I still think is a great time. But the idea that we can, as a society, be connected together to play games, and we all have experiences with our buddies in Europe, friends in Asia that we've played with. There's so many fun stories of people meeting each other online and getting married. One of my kids plays regularly with a young lady in India and a buddy in the Netherlands, and somehow the three of them managed to find the times when they are actually all online together, despite the widest time zone sprawl possible. It's just, I love it. I love that passion, that energy, and it does bring out the ugliness in some people, and I think we're still sort of figuring out how to deal with that. But that's part of what OtherWorldsGG is about. Is the GG is good game, right? It's all about, hey, let's do this stuff together. Let's have fun together. Let's bring everyone together. That's, I don't know.
Well,
I love it.
I think the thing about gaming and just the internet in general, right? Because it used to be like, before the internet, it was like, well, to know somebody in a foreign country, you had to be a pen pal. So we'd like get on a list and you get some random person assigned to you, and then you have like letter exchange physically through the post office. But now, and back then, right, it was Cold War. So it's like we didn't know what the Russians were. So the Russians all had like horns on their head like the devil, and cloven hooves, and they weren't human and whatever. And now we find out with the internet that, wow, they are just like us. They laugh at the same jokes. In fact, they make some damn good memes. We just have the language barriers.
And for the longest time too, they were the ones making some of the best space games out there too. Like we've
the only space games out there.
Right. Yeah. So
it was but it's the thing of like, you lose that ability to vilify the quotes the other, right? Because it's like, hey, we want to have hostilities, we have to declare these people as other so that they're dehumanized, and then we can bomb them. Well, it's like, okay, well, I game with a guy that's in whatever third world country, so I think that we probably shouldn't bomb them because they actually are decent people. I know these people now.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, we got international people here in our community now too. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, some of them I could probably bomb though. Like,
well, I think
Dex specifically.
Love you, Dex. Love you, Dex.
Yes. Well. And I think to that point, like I take it back to primate psychology, right? Our troop living in the trees, it's our little tribe, and we being very intelligent creatures are able to adapt our mental model of what a tribe is to a lot of different things, and we can be members of different tribes simultaneously.
You mean like a gaming community?
Absolutely.
Hey,
and
so that we're indulging our monkeyness by being in the community. It's an outlet. So choose gaming, not violence.
Yes, absolutely.
Beat your children, because you were talking about beating your kids in a game the other night, and I was just like,
I was.
Well, that's probably the only place you can legally still beat your kids, even in Texas.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about that in Texas, but anyway, no, I mean, absolutely. But it's also about the social connection, right? We all are social creatures. Primates are social by nature, and we need that connection. We need that sense of belonging. I ranted a few shows ago about one of the things I was mad. One of the reasons why I think Blizzard has gone into a steep decline in the last several years, is they stopped hiring only gamers because that was the common identity that bound everybody at the company together. And I think ultimately what I'm excited about thinking about games today is that we have so many different options that people can find the thing that they're excited about, that they're passionate about, whether that's running a virtual farm in Farming Simulator or competing against other people to, do farming esports. Like, good on them. Have fun with it.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I look
like,
at power of games is that I have no knowledge of farming whatsoever, but I can explain to you what a windrower is for, a windrower is for, and how you make silage and why silage is important to cows. And I find myself, like, after playing Farm Simulator for like 10 hours, then I'm actually looking up actual movies on YouTube of how does this baler actually work in the real world, right? Like a silage wrapping continuous baler thing dude, they're incredible. Like, the machinery that humanity has made to just do mundane things is just beyond. Like, if you look at one of these things, it's just a farm thing, and it's just like, that's some Star Trek shit that these guys are just dragging around behind a tractor that, and it allows one person to do the job that it used to take 50 people to do. And so but I learned from it, right? And education, and it doesn't have to give me a detailed education like I'm a pro at this, but I have an exposure education, right?
Yeah.
I have an awareness of this, and I have now a respect for a thing that I didn't know enough to respect before. And now I can look at some farmer in his field and just be like, that guy is actually quite the technologist, because of all the things that he has to deal with. And as far as entrepreneurialism, to know, like, when do I do this on the farm? Like, how do these systems interoperate? Like, it's not just like pig shit magically becomes whatever. It's just like, well, you have to do all these things, and there's a timing to it. And if you screw the timing and the order up, you go the hell out of business, because your farm falls apart. So it's a hell of a job, and it's kind of like, I look at Joan and I'm like, hey, maybe we should get a farm. This is kind of fun, but then to actually get her out there riding the tractor in the yard, well, I know this won't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as somebody who push mowed lawned their entire lawn today, it's not a small section of land.
Yeah. Are you kind of like getting triggered by all the tractor talk because
no.
You're marginalized push mower guy?
What I'm trying to say is I'm gonna get a riding lawnmower now. I might get myself a Ron beer is what I might get.
Hell yeah.
I think, like, there is this fascination, though, to your point, Jim, with doing something that you would never want to do in real life in the virtual world. We talked at one point, I think, on the show, or maybe it was just Table for Two and I chatting about the Japanese commuter train simulators.
Yeah.
That go back to like the original Game Boy, and they sold the controller that's just basically a speed lever, and you have to like stop and start the train and push a button to open the doors. Yeah. And yet that is one of the most enduring franchises in Japan, because people, are fascinated by like driving the commuter train.
Right, because everybody actually interacts with that damn thing every day.
Yeah,
they just don't actually get to drive it. So when you're a passenger, you're like, I wonder what it's like to drive this. Now you can know.
Yeah, an American truck driving simulator and European truck driving simulator are another like example of those weird kind of niche but still very popular games that we see. And I remember people being so excited that the truck simulator games had VR support, so they could like look over and check their mirror as they're driving the big rig.
Yeah.
down the highway. Like,
So I
amazing.
feel like there needs to be more games that actually teach things to people, right?
Mhm.
Like what if there was a video game that I could play and it's fun to play and inadvertently I acquired job skills that makes me employable
Mhm.
along the way, then hey, like this actually was a thing. What if we could turn school into a form of play instead of school sucking,
You know what
where
that
it's
makes
just
me?
like,
You know what that makes me think of? It makes me think of Ready Player One, where they talk about how
Yep.
like they go to school in like the VR world, essentially.
Yep.
Like that's.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking that.
it's like
Absolutely.
we can learn physics by playing bridge construction simulator together as a group, right? And
Well, I mean,
discussing the mathematics that is
there
going on behind the scenes.
there is something to be said for that, though. And I think it's something that is worth exploring because when you engage, and it's been proven too. I don't have the science in front of me or the links to it. I apologize, but it has been proven though that you learn more by engaging more of your senses involved in the activity, right? Instead of
Yep.
just hearing the thing or like regurgitating the thing. Now you're interactively involved with the thing, and your memory is going to remember that more because there's more points of contact with your senses to pick up on that.
Yeah, so in the Assassin's Creed games, and
Oh boy.
with the one in Egypt specifically, those crazy bastards did it, right?
Yep.
And I was so proud of them because they use the in-game assets, and then you go into like free play mode and you can teleport to anywhere in the world and get a guided tour. Like, I want to walk through this pyramid, and you get a tour through the pyramid where you get to listen to somebody, actually narrate the experience, like, this is it. But it's not just the fascinating pyramid stuff. If you go down to the beach where there's a guy like beating reeds into papyrus, then you'll get a lesson on papyrus making, but you're actually watching the process happen, right?
Well, and
You
you're
see, like,
controlling
this was
your
very labor
character.
intensive.
I was sorry. I was just adding, like, you're also controlling your character, and you can choose to like walk away in the middle of it if papyrus making wasn't as interesting as you hoped,
Right.
or whatever. Like, you
But-
have control, you have agency in that.
Yeah, it reminds me of the field trips that I used to take as a kid that still stick with me, where we would go to like colonial Ohio settlements, right, that they had historically preserved. And then they would have like period actors that were educators that would be in costume. It's like, here's how we made candles back in the day with actual beeswax and things, and we're making them here. Also, buy one in the gift shop on the way out.
Right, yeah. I was about to say that.
But it's like, do you want to see how muskets are made? Here's a guy actually like turning a musket on a lathe. This is, how low tech did we make hollow pipes that were barrels for these things? Well, we made a metal rod and then we had to drill that shit out. And here's how it was actually done without power tools,
Yep.
and I that stuff stuck with me, like how life for humanity had to super suck back then. But
Well, it was much
know.
more labor intensive to do anything.
yeah, and everything had
Absolutely.
inherently much more value because it was
Yep.
labor intensive. So it wasn't just like, oh, I can just go get 10 of those at the store. It was like, no, this guy has to make it and I have to wait while he makes it. And if I break it, then that's bad because now I got to get in line to get another one. So right, so you treated things with some respect and you maintained things and whatever.
You actually repaired things, which we almost never do, right?
Right. And
Like,
in fact, back to tractors, right to repair, where you license the software that's in the tractor. So you're not allowed to actually repair your tractor. You have to take it to a licensed technician. I don't know if you've heard all that mess, but that's the current fight with farmers, is the right to repair and modify their equipment. It's like, I paid $200,000 for this tractor. I should be able to do whatever the hell I want with it. Oh, you're not allowed because you just licensed the ability to drive the tractor. It's like software license things, right? It's like you don't actually own that game. You just have a license to play it. But anyway, so the Assassin's Creed game did that, right? And now I feel like we're in the age of VR, okay? And if you want to teach people historical stuff, right? Like whenever the Declaration of Independence got signed, right? I could put on a VR helmet and be in the room with the people. I could interact. Like I could walk up and talk to Alexander Hamilton and just be like, tell me your life history. And then that character could look at me and just be like, well, I grew up on a farm here. And then, and just as long as I want to listen, he'll tell me, his autobiography or whatever they want to put in there. But it's a thing where it takes it from the experience of I read it in a book to actually I stood in front of the virtual person and had an interaction with them. And that will then stick in my memory much more so than if I had just read it in a book, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you get an understanding of what was really going on. Like you could read a book about World War II and, that's one thing. And then you see a movie about World War II and then you kind of understand, ooh, this was a pretty intense, bad experience, right? But to actually then play a game that is set in World War II that isn't just like a Rambo thing where, but it's actually like, oh, one bullet, you're pretty much out of the fight.
For what it's worth, the original Call of Duty, the first Call of Duty kind of like was like, whoa. I do remember that.
Landing on Normandy in Saving Private Ryan was intense. Doing it in a good video game, I forget which of the Call of Duties had it, but I remember
I think it was 2. I think it was 2 that did it.
That was like just mind blowing.
Yeah, you get a respect for how dead you would have been and how terrifying this would be if I can't respawn. This is freaking terrifying. Like I just watched 10 people get mowed down in front of me, and now they yell at me like, "Okay, next wave." Oh,
that's me. Oh crap!
Am I coming out from behind this barrier? I don't think so. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it gives a thought to that notion of like my life is very special to me, and do I want to just throw it away as part of a machine of waves of people that are about to die here? Or
and it had to be done, right? It wasn't a waste. Like some of the World War or Civil War generals, right, had no friggin' clue what they were doing apparently, and just threw waves of men at the into the bad positions and got them all killed. But like the D-Day landings at Normandy, it had to be done. There was no other way that they had to do it. So the sacrifice that those people made is puts me in awe. So I wanted to go back to what you're talking about with the Assassin's Creed games, though, and just mention that they actually started offering it as a standalone product.
Yep.
So there is an Egypt discovery mode, or discovery tour, I think, is the standalone product.
Yeah, it's cheap. It's like $10.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Game. But super worth it.
Yeah, well, they did it for Odyssey too. So the Greek, if you want to do Peloponnesian era Greece, which is where Odyssey was set, you can do the same thing with that, and they added that discovery tour to it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because it's just like for history things, right? It's so different to actually be like feet on the ground in the place, in the state that it was, rather than like you could go on a tour of Egypt and they could point at like an empty piece of sand and they could be, well, over here was this, or I could be in VR and actually be watching the people doing the thing that used to be there. Right? So I just don't understand why that hasn't been more embraced by education. I feel like there needs to be like a whole gaming thing that is educational games that aren't like Freddy Fractions or whatever, right? Because that's kind of where it died at. It was just like, oh, here's like Fraction Frog thing, right?
I could do a whole episode just talking about education and the problems with public education. I have a pretty strong belief around it. To be clear, like my kids don't go to any school.
Yeah. Well, you could have in the game, you could have like in the options screen, it's parental filters, like turn off creationism. Click and
oh boy. Well, no, but like we do, I have my youngest son is obsessed with military things and learning, like he watches World War II documentaries off of Netflix and things like that on his own, like no prompting. But like he loves getting into games like Call of Duty, and I appreciate that Activision has things like a profanity filter and a gore filter, right? To tone it down a little bit so that he can still get in there and enjoy some of that history that I remember impacting me so profoundly, because he's actually learning quite a bit. We've had, conversations about a number of different aspects of World War II and why things happened, and how they happened and what led to those things. And so I really, think it, to your point, can work really, really well. It's just that I don't think that public schools are ever going to get there because they don't have the money. The teachers don't have any understanding of the technology typically. So they can't facilitate. And so you just end up with, a giant mess, unfortunately.
Well, we went down a nice little rabbit hole there with some of that stuff. But I to all your all's points, I do think, more interactive type education is good. And I think there's points to be made about public schools as well as homeschooling. I mean, it's a debate that my wife and I have had about whether or not we want to homeschool the future children that we have, because we want to start a family as well. And I definitely see the ups and downs of it because, a lot of times people kind of treat the school system as like a daycare instead of actually like you want your children to get an actual education on things that are important. I mean, so there's a lot that we could go into in that, but I think it would be kind of cool to see more interactive style VR type things or anything like that. I think is always going to be beneficial when you engage more of the senses involved in learning. But
yeah, and it doesn't even need to be the official curriculum of the school.
Sure.
If I'm a parent and that stuff is available and I can pay $50 for my, like if you pay $50 to get a Udemy course, or I pay $50 to get the virtual tour of whatever, right?
Yeah, go land on the moon with John Glenn. Have fun. All right.
It's like whenever you take a tech class, and then it's like, do you learn more from the lecture, which you could have read in the book, or do you learn from the labs that you have an instructor there to ask questions? Right. So VR things can be like a lab experience of history.
Yep. Sure.
Whatever. So sure, or
cool stuff.
Actual lab thing, like, hey, let's do chemistry. Here's like chemistry set. Here's
what not to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can blow yourself up and respawn.
But you can do it in a safe way, right? Like that's part of the appeal for sure. And we're like VR. I think we could do a whole episode on the future of VR, but what we're seeing is companies starting to embrace it. Jim, you were talking about the virtual conference you attended in VR recently. And, that technology space is set to explode given so many more people are working remote. A lot of companies are working on things like facial mapping so they can actually show facial expressions in VR while you're interacting with other people to make it more realistic, which I think will really make it practical for things like business meetings.
Right.
Well, very cool, guys. We've
I don't know. It's like the ability to simulate shit in VR. Like I was saying about the virtual chemistry set thing, is very real, because how much does it cost to run a lab? Right. And whatever. And then you have to like trust these kids to work with whatever. But if you had a VR experience that is actually like a virtual chemistry lab, and the things are programmed so that if I combine these things together, first off, it would teach me like, how do you actually measure things? Like you'd have a virtual scale or like flasks that have, gradient, whatever. But it could teach technique as well. Right. Or if like I went to college for electronics, right, And there are plenty of electronic simulator things, but there's nothing that is like the old Radio Shack kits that you used to be able to get, where it was like a lab for kids or adults, right? Where it's like, here's how to build a motor. It was like the 50 different projects in a box, right? Build a motor, hook it up to some LEDs, and then we're going to build a counter, and then we do, and it gives you like a breadboard and some wires and all the parts to put the thing together, kind of deal. They don't have that shit anymore, and you could do it in VR, and it would be great, right? I don't know. That's I could again go on all day, but I'll let it go. But yeah, all these things.
Well, and I think those things do exist. They've gone to the private market because there's no appetite for it.
Yeah, Nintendo's Labo could have been a lot more things than it was.
Sure. Yeah. Well, this has been quite an interesting show. We definitely covered quite a few things. We started off with kind of the state of Other Worlds and how things are going with that, and we've definitely covered a lot of ground. And state of the lawnmower. That's right. Yeah. Esports, VR, all those things. It's been good. I'm really glad we got to hang out and chat and engage the audience there. So engagement challenge for you guys, though. Head on over to our Discord, discord.OtherWorldsGG. We'll get you there. Be sure when you're there to click on the little emoji to give yourself a member access. It's a little controller emoji in the lobby channel, and you'll open yourself up to be a member for the whole server, and there's other roles that you can get to in the Get a Role channel. We are running a giveaway, so we get ourselves up to 100 members. We will do this $100 giveaway, 4 $25 gift cards, one a week for 4 weeks. And so if you want to see that Ron Beer video, we've got it posted here in our Discord, and there's more discussions, more things happening over there, so looking forward to seeing you guys over there. This has been episode number 21, and we'll see you guys next time.
We should give away a Ron Beer mower.
A Ron Beer mower?
We all need one first, and then we can give one away.
All right, well, signing off. All right, I'm just gonna start it off, and we're just gonna be like, the state of the union, OtherWorldsGG. Welcome to the Otherworld. You motherfucker!
Sorry. I'm gonna shut up. Go ahead and start. I'm gonna be on mute for a minute. I'm gonna be on mute for a minute because Kitten's asking me something and he needs help.
That's fine.
So.
It's all good. It's all good.